Aloha, good afternoon. It is 2:33 p.m. on Wednesday, November 20th, 2024, and I call the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health meeting to order. I'd like to welcome Council Members Toba and Dos Santos Tam to the chamber. I believe Councilmember Okimoto and Vice Chair Kia Aina are on their way. Oh, Councilmember Kia Aina, Vice Chair Kia Aina is also present. Mahalo. Pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute, Section 92-3.7, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony remotely or in person in the council chamber on all items on the agenda when each item is taken up. All persons who register to testify in person will be called upon first, followed by those who registered to testify remotely. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered testifiers. For those standing by remotely, please utilize the Zoom raise hand feature to indicate your desire to speak. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. I will identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number, and when your number is called, press *6 to unmute. Before testifying, each person shall state their full name and will be limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at a remote meeting to be conducted by roll call unless unanimous. I'll first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones. Members, agenda item number 6, information briefing update on the city's housing plan has been canceled for today and will not be considered. And so that brings us to agenda item number 1 on the agenda. We have and would like to welcome to the chamber students from HOLOMUA Elementary School on their research on ocean acid acidification. I'll go ahead and welcome you up to the podium. I know you had a few words before we presented the video, but can we get a round of applause and a welcome to the students and their teachers?
Hello, everybody. Thank you, council members, and members of the public. Thank you very much for housing us today and having us visit today. I am Ryan Kanitani, one of the tech coordinators and FLL coaches here. Me of 1 and me of 3 coaches. Me, of course, Mr. Kanitani, and then Mrs. Hokutan is here today. I have a bunch of students here that are from HOLOMUA 6th grade, and I'm happy to announce that they have been doing a lot of work and research on acidification. And we are here today to kind of share our research. They've been working on this quite a while. And so we are gonna have them share with you guys. But on behalf of HOLOMUA, we wanted to make sure we thank everybody for their time, especially Councilmember Weyer and Leitani, who have been at our forefront. So they were able to talk to them and present actually at the district tournament this weekend. And I'm proud to announce that they are moving on to the state's competition this year. So they're gonna be presenting there as well. But I wanna thank everybody again for their hard work and especially the students here who are here to present. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Mahalo. And I know we'll have the students, I think, do presentations of themselves in a little bit, and we'll go ahead and play the video that they have for the part of their presentation and informational briefing.
What is ocean acidification? Ocean acidification is when our ocean absorbs carbon dioxide that is released into our atmosphere, making it become more acidic. The ocean absorbs about 31% of carbon emissions. Burning fossil fuel, caused by us humans, releases large amounts of carbon dioxide. When carbon dioxide and water from the ocean mix, they form an acid that causes our oceans to become more acidic.
pH scale, acids, bases, and neutrals. The acidity is measured by using a pH scale. pH stands for potential of hydrogen. It measures the concentration of hydrogen ions in the water-based substances. The scale ranges from 0 to 14. 7 is neutral. Below 7 is acidic, and anything above 7 is basic or also called alkaline.
The average pH of our ocean today is 8.1, making it slightly alkaline. Some items that are acidic are sour milk, oranges, lemon, coffee, the acid in your stomach, and the highly acidic cranberry, which has a pH close to 0.
Ocean acidification is a hidden threat to marine life because not many people know much about it. One of the effects on marine life is that as the oceans become more acidic, it starts to weaken the shells and skeletons of sea creatures such as crabs, shrimps, and clams. These creatures will eventually die.
Another effect is coral bleaching. The acid reduces the amount of calcium that the coral needs to build and repair itself. When coral dies, some marine life lose their habitat and will not have a safe place to live in order to survive.
The rise in the acidity of the ocean will eventually affect the entire food chain. The marine life at the bottom of the food chain will die out, and the larger sea creatures will not have their source of food. Humans who rely on the ocean for food will also be greatly affected.
Here's the big picture. 1 in 7 people rely on seafood for protein. 1 in 4 ocean species live in coral reefs. We need to reduce carbon dioxide emissions to help our ocean, and we need to do it now.
What are some ways we can reduce our carbon footprint, you may ask? Let's plant more trees to absorb carbon dioxide, use alternative energy sources from the sun, wind, and waves, and use reusable water bottles.
Did you know that single-use water bottles that you and I drink from are made from crude oil? The same crude oil that is used to fuel a car. The process of making these water bottles releases carbon dioxide into the air, which is then absorbed by our oceans. 1.5 billion water bottles are produced every single day.
By the year 2100, if we don't do anything to reduce our carbon footprint, our oceans will become more and more acidic, causing our marine life to die. This can happen during our lifetime. I'll only be 88 years young.
Take a stand! Say no to plastic water bottles! Thank you!
Mixed up order. Mixed up Avengers Assemble.
Avengers, assemble!
pH scale.
Good afternoon, my name is Ethan, and I'm robotics lead.
Olivia, team co-lead.
Christian, team lead.
Dahlia, research.
Joaquin, robotics.
Naomi, research lead.
Kalea, research co-lead.
Cole, robotics.
Luke, research. And we are
The Avengers! 1, 2, 3. Here are sick, here are cry. You're burning fuel while the shellfish die. Here are sick, here are cry. You're burning fuel while the shellfish die.
We are live at Honolulu Hale. We're a group of 12-year-olds from HOLOMUA Elementary Elementary School is protesting against the use of single-use plastic water bottles. They claim that there's a connection between water bottles and ocean acidification. Let's listen in.
We want a future. There's no plan to be. Use reusable water bottles and help save the sea. We want a future. There's no plan to be. Use reusable water bottles and help save the sea.
Our ocean is becoming more and more acidic. According to NOAA, it acts as a carbon sink and absorbs 31% of carbon dioxide that is released into the atmosphere, which then increases the amount of hydrogen ions in the water, increasing the acidity.
Ocean acidification has increased by 30% since the pre-industrial era. Back then, the ocean's pH was 8.2, which is ideal, making it slightly alkaline. Today, it is 8.1, a whopping drop of 30%. By 2100, our ocean's pH will be 7.8, a drop of 150%. This will happen in our lifetime, in our children's lifetime, in our grandchildren's lifetime, all be 88 years young.
Take a guess. What's increasing carbon dioxide in our atmosphere?
Burning fossil fuels
Is the leading cause of CO2 emissions. Emissions have increased from close to 11 billion tons of carbon dioxide per year in the 1960s to an estimated 36.6 billion tons in 2023.
Single-use water bottles are made from crude oil. 1.5 billion water bottles are produced each day. We have discovered that the manufacturing process of single-use water bottles in North America is linked to 8.8 million metric tons of carbon dioxide emissions each year. By drinking from single-use water bottles, we are contributing to the sickness of our oceans.
Ocean acidification is known as the osteoporosis of the sea. It creates conditions that eat away at the minerals used by oysters, clams, lobsters, shrimp, coral reefs, and other marine life that is very important for their existence. The dying off of these creatures will affect the food chain.
Ocean acidification is weakening coral reefs, known as bleaching. The amazing Great Barrier Reef, one of the 7 wonders of the world, has declined by half, reducing habitat for fish. Studies have also shown that harmful algae species grow faster in acidic waters and produce more toxins, making eating them harmful to other marine life and to us humans.
What can we do?
One simple thing is to drink from a reusable water bottle. Today, we've come to Honolulu Hali to plead our case to our politicians. We propose of no more selling of single-use plastic water bottles in our government vending machine. We have to start somewhere and think the best place is to start with the people who can change our laws.
We've gone on a mission to educate our fellow classmates and Ever Beach neighborhood board. We gave the 4th, 5th, and 6th grade students a pre- and a post-test about ocean acidification. But before we gave them the post-test, we taught them about the causes and effects and what could be done. Here are the test results. Ta-da! For the first question, what is ocean acidification? 68.8% of people got it correct on the pre-test, and 85.2% of people got it correct on the post-test. For the second question, what are the effects of ocean acidification? Only 22.7% of people got it correct on the pre-test, and 58.9% of people got it correct on the post-test. For the third question, what can you do to reduce your carbon footprint? 68.1% of people got it correct on the pre-test, and 77.2% of people got it correct on the post-test. For question number 4, has our survey helped you? 61.2% of people said yes, and 29.7% of people weren't sure.
It appears that Councilman Weyer has come out of his office and will be addressing the students.
What you're doing as 6th graders is very admirable, if only more the adult citizens cared as much as you and took the time to get involved. I want to help you with your solution to remove water bottles from vending machines from all government buildings. Let's work together to pass Bill 59.
Yay!
What an amazing day here at Honolulu Hale. This will definitely be one for the books. Back to you, Joe, in the studio.
Thank you!
Mahalo for that wonderful presentation and the video that you presented today. Can we get another round of applause for our youth? Since we have them here, I'll open it up to the committee for questions, if there are any, before we go to the testimony. Councilmember Dos Santos, Tam.
Sure, well, thank you guys for coming on in. Since you're at HOLOMUA Elementary out in Eva Beach, I imagine you guys probably go out to the beach on that side of the island. Have you guys seen personally some effects of acidification and changes in the ocean quality out there? Can anyone, has anyone kind of seen that or might want to share?
No pressure,
No
but
pressure.
If anyone has seen, who can maybe share some of the impacts that you guys talked about again? So what were some of the impacts that have occurred for ocean acidification?
When the ocean absorbs the carbon dioxide, the calcium reduces.
And animals or like shellfish don't have enough calcium to build up their shells.
That's a great example. Mahalo for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, appreciate your presentation. We'll have you go ahead and sit back in the front row over there, and we'll turn to testimony. Particularly, this is testimony on the discussion item today. We'll also be having a discussion on the bill that was mentioned. Clerks, do we have any in-person registered testifiers for this item?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. Having no registered in person, we'll go to unregistered. Ms. Young, if you want to unmute and proceed when you're ready. Mahalo.
Thank you, Council Member and City Council, and to the students that set the stage for such an amazing performance, and to their teacher. Oh my gosh, such a good mother, right? Like, just to show kindness to the students, and then they're being kind to nature. Amazing. So in the prior generation, community operated in the ways that were disruptive to nature and the oceans and marine life and the ecosystems and wildlife. And yet if you're kind to nature, nature is kind to you. Reducing single-use plastics is so important. I'm so happy the students and youth are learning about it. Environmental damage caused by our old ways of life is something that we should be active in, about cleaning up the environment and setting a standard for environmental protection. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Young. Anyone else wishing to testify specifically on the informational briefing? Go ahead and come up and unmute yourself and proceed when you're ready.
Is this on? All right. My name is Ari Pates, and I think that this presentation really represents, and thank you for this opportunity, actually, and for them, really. I think it represents how the children, specifically of this community, have stepped forward. We've seen this time and time again, specifically with environmental issues, and I believe that the children are our future, and we have taught them well, so please allow them to lead the way. Thank you.
Mahalo. Any other in-person testifiers? Seeing none, we'll go to online. I don't believe we have any registered online testifiers. Anyone wishing to testify, go ahead and use the raise hand feature. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and close testimony and go into discussion. Remember, was there any discussion, particularly on the informational briefing we had today? No. Okay, seeing none. Just wanted to echo everything we talked about or we heard from the testifiers, just a mahalo to all of you for stepping up, for doing research, for educating us, and coming down to City Council to teach us about ocean acidification and turning that into something you want to see put into a bill and passed out in policy. And so just wanted to say mahalo again for your time. And we'll go ahead and close this item. And with the committee's indulgence, we'll skip agenda item number 2 for now. And we'll go ahead and go to agenda item number 3. This was Bill 59, 2024, addressing certain single-use plastic containers. I know we had filed communication and from managing director who was assigned by admin to this. Don't believe he was able to make it because he did have commitments in the community. Seeing no questions for the managing director. Just for the committee's sake, before we do testimony, I'll just note that, as we discussed, the purpose of this bill was to work towards getting rid of additional single-use plastics in our city facilities, right? So not even, oh, yeah, we'll bring up ENV as well. But just to get to the intent, specifically it applies to the sale, right, of items, particularly single-use plastic bottles. So it wouldn't prevent, for example, the use by sports teams or other groups in the community at parks. And so just wanted to kind of clarify that and note that if we go into discussion, of course, it's up to the committee whether it passes out. I was also going to be including amendments that excluded those that are part of the licensed blind vendor program. So just wanted to throw that out for framing as we go through the presentation today. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to the administration.
Aloha, Committee Chair, Council members. Mike O'Keefe, Deputy Director at the City's Department of Environmental Services. So our department in Bill 59 is tasked with enforcement of this item. But I'm really here today just to kind of talk on behalf of the Managing Director and the city, and just really want to just reiterate the points that were transmitted in the communication, the testimony. And I'll just highlight some of those very briefly here. The city, we do have reservations about Bill 59. We understand the intent, and we support the intent to eliminate single-use plastics. But I will note that our use is limited, but important. Single-use plastics, primarily beverage containers, are restricted principally for guests and distinguished visitors at meetings. We do not purchase, or we do not distribute single-use containers for employees. And any single-use containers that are distributed on city property and city offices, I should say, are put into recycling bins in our offices and recycled. Lastly, following COVID, there still remains some community sensitivity about serving water to guests in non-single-use containers for health and sanitary reasons. So I just like to highlight that again. But thank you for the opportunity, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Mahalo, appreciate that. Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and go to testimony. And I believe we do have registered in-person speakers. We'll go first to Gavin Abe, followed by David Thorpe, followed by Arlene Velasco, followed by Ari Potts.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Gavin Abe, and I'm the administrator at Ho'oponopono Services for the Blind, a branch of the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation, State of Hawaii Department of Human Services. On behalf of Director Ryan Yamane, we understand the intent of the bill and will stand by our written testimony, open to comment and suggestions, and requesting an exemption. If you have any questions, I'm available for that. Thank you for your time.
Okay, Mahalo, any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you again for your testimony. We'll go to Mr. Thorpe.
Chair Weyer, members of the committee, I'm David Thorpe with the American Beverage Association. I represent the non-alcoholic beverage industry in Hawaii. We have manufacturers and distributors here, as well as suppliers that manufacture plastic bottles here, as well as aluminum cans, and we employ 1,200 Hawaii residents across the state. The beverage industry agrees that plastic pollution is a problem. We're committed to being part of the solution. We want to ensure that our bottles are remade into new bottles, that they don't end up in the ocean, the beaches, or at H-Power. Going back to 2019, Bill 40 bans single-use plastics such as straws, utensils, bags, which have no value and are not recyclable. PET beverage containers are not single-use. They're 100% recyclable, including the cap. This bottle is made from nothing other than other bottles. It's a 100% recycled bottle. These can be made into other bottles, carpet, other materials. The city understands the value and recyclability of these containers by collecting them through curbside. The state's High Five program collects them also. And I'll try to wrap up. We'll announce that there's exciting times and changes coming next year. There will be a facility in the state that will collect all these bottles from the curbside program and the High Five program, grind them up, make them into new bottles, make them into these little preforms, and make them into new bottles. So there will be a complete circular economy for PET bottles in the state beginning next year. So happy to answer any questions or provide more information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, mahalo again. We'll go to Ms. Velasco, followed by Mr. Pates.
I'm Arlene Velasco, and I'm representing the Surfrider Foundation of Oahu. And I want to thank the council members for introducing this bill. Surfrider strongly supports this bill. We have been working for years on this island trying to prevent the pollution that we currently see in our ocean, and as well as along the beaches. We want to point out that the Surfrider Foundation mainland in California has filed a lawsuit against ExxonMobil. And they've done that because there has been a deception advertising scheme from ExxonMobil for the last 50 years in trying to promote the thought that you can actually reuse and recycle plastics. So the true reality is only 9% of current plastics are recycled, 79% are burned. 12% are burned and 79% are put in landfills. So with that reality, we really do need to reduce the use. Thank you very much.
Mahalo. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you again for your testimony. We'll go to Mr. Potts. We do have a few more registered testifiers, Ms. Young, before we get to you. And then we'll go to Donald Takamoto after, and Mike Foley.
Good afternoon. Many thanks for this opportunity, Chair. I have a lot to say. There are a bunch of different things that were said here. I think the notion that a single-use plastic water bottle is reusable because it's recyclable is absurd. I think a beach towel is reusable. I think a coffee cup, a ceramic coffee cup, is reusable. If I have to build my own recycling facility and then recycle that bottle to make another one, I don't think that's reusable. I believe it is recyclable. I would like to point out that there are lots of options to plastic water bottles. There are aluminum, and if you're going to be in the city, county, or in the administration's office and you're going to get a plastic water bottle as a guest, I would think we'd want to elevate it. But we can also elevate it a step further, not to mention that there's, common cans, right? I mean, there's no reason why we can't bottle water in cans. Oh, and if you were to talk about cost associated with things, the reusable bottle is clearly the cost saver. But we can also elevate. There are even companies within Hawaii that do glass bottles, which are beautiful. They even have the Hawaiian Island or Big Island on the bottom of the vessel. I have a bunch to say if I could continue.
Yeah, please.
Just going through some basic things. As was pointed out, 79% of the items that we see go into landfill or into the environment, 12% are burned, 9% is actually recycled. 94% of people in the United States have good access to recycling, yet only 25% of what is produced is actually recycled. Each day, 60 million plastic water bottles are consumed and trashed. That's just in the United States. As of 2018, 12.7 million metric tons of plastic are going into our oceans. Now, why is that number important? It's important because in 2012, that number was 8 million metric tons. So as we talk about recycling being our solution, we see that it is becoming more of a problem. I believe that recycling is the greatest fraud perpetrated on the American people since tobacco. I'll let that sink in for a second. We have said that it is okay to use plastic materials because they are recyclable, yet more and more of them wind up in the ocean. Fewer and fewer of them wind up being recycled. For 4 years running, the amount of plastic water bottles being recycled in this state has declined. It is projected to decline again this year. We are a unique place. We are in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. We should treat our place different. There is no reason why we shouldn't be looking at the 3 R's, which are reduce, reuse, and recycle, in order of importance. Recycling should not be our priority. Reduction should be our priority. This bill is not on the cutting edge. There are many cities and counties and states and universities that have full out banned the use of plastic water bottles. This is a small fraction of what this city and county can do. And I believe that it is a conversation that is so important for us to have. If you have any reservations, if you cannot vote yes to this bill, please vote with reservations. This conversation is an important one. As these children have represented, please allow this conversation to continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, mahalo again. We do have some online registered testifiers. I see Mr. Sakamoto on. I had you registered as a testifier, so please proceed when you're ready.
Yeah, good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair and committee members. Donald Sakamoto. As a resident of Hawaii for, 62 years. That shows how I'm old. Anyway, I like the intent of the children, what they said. You know, I was pretty much against this bill, but after hearing what they had to say, but my concern is as a blind individual, I have blind vendors that have shops and machines in your establishments that you're building. So as Mr. Gavin Abe of Ho'opono said, if there can be exemptions on that, if possibly can, for them to have enough time to convert from plastic to another format, aluminum with covers, twist covers, to have bottles being sold in their vending machine or their establishments. But good topic. Good luck with your vote on this matter. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Mahalo. Appreciate that insight, and Chair is definitely open to those modifications. Any other questions from the testifier? Seeing none, mahalo, Mr. Sakamoto, for your testimony. I believe Mr. Michael Foley is also on for this item.
Aloha. Thank you, Chair and Vice Chair, council members, for the opportunity to testify on this important bill. Thank you for your leadership, Councilmember Weyer, Councilmember Waters, in introducing this measure. Yes, this is super important. It's what I would consider, and I hope to be, the first step in the council's work against single-use plastics. This is old technology. Single-use water bottles kind of exploded in popularity in the 80s. And like many things that were popular in the 80s, today we know better, right? Think about it. Big hairdos, disco music, Michael Jackson. Like today we know these things that we thought were so good, today they're not so great. So we have other technologies that we can use. Single-use water bottles, outdated, you know. I'm kind of nervous talking to all you respected council people, so I'm a little, need to hydrate. There we go. This is the future. Let's refill our water bottles using city water that's filtered at water stations. And let's think about the future and how we can rid ourselves of unsustainable old technology. Thank you.
Mahalo for that. Any questions from the testifier? Seeing none. Anyone else online that's not registered can use the raise hand feature. Otherwise, we're going to come back to in-person unregistered testifiers. I know, Ms. Young, did you want to testify on this item? Sure. Okay. And then anyone else in the audience, if any of you want to come forward and testify or express your position on the bill, you can do that as well.
Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. So making conscious choices about pollution is important to cleaning up the environment, such as switching from single-use plastic to biodegradable materials, just like choosing a Caddy Escalade or choosing a Tesla, an environmentally friendly car. Reducing single-use plastics and cleaning up the environment can be expensive. So statutory language can be set for more specificity to say if it's applicable for the county's office, events and functions and activities, so that there can be also a funding management structure. And so this issue is so important because it affects the amount of acid in the ocean, and ocean acidification is a chemical process that makes the ocean more acidic, which can have many negative effects on marine life and ocean ecosystems. This disrupts food chains for the sharks and the dolphins. Ocean acidification can affect the natural food chain by reducing the population of species that feed on calcifying organisms. And it can also lead to fewer predators at the top of the food chain like dolphins and seals. Ocean acidification is caused by the increased amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, which comes from burning fossil fuels. So learning about strategies to clean up the environment involves diverse activities such as going to the beach and picking up litter, and also proposing policy to control trash and recycling by reducing pollution and reducing trash being directed to be processed by the facilities, which can also save on taxpayers' dollars. Reducing single-use plastics should be a top issue to discuss. And just learning about cleaning up the environment is very important, period.
Mahalo, Ms. Young. Appreciate that. Seeing no questions for the testifier, does anyone else want to testify on this item? Any of our student presenters? If not, no worries. Okay. Appreciate you coming down. We'll go ahead and close testimony if there's no other unregistered testifiers and open it up for discussion. And I'd be interested in hearing the committee's thoughts. I know there were some reservations previously. I think as the youth mentioned, part of the main goal was to get these items from not being sold. Of course, at city premises, the bill kind of expands beyond that, and it also talks about the city making purchases for those items as well. So I'd be interested in hearing kind of the committee's comfort level, if any, but what kind of things we think would be appropriate at this time. Otherwise, I'm going to be recommending that we pass it out today, given this is the first committee meeting, going ahead and making some adjustments to exempt the vendors participating in the licensed blind vendor program. Yeah. Yes, we're in discussion. Councilmember Toba.
Yeah, if I can have the administration, I just like ask a question. If they know. Thanks. Do you know how many city vendors would this impact?
I don't know the answer to that, but we can get that information.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you. Any other questions, discussion, thoughts? Yeah, Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank the KK again for coming in, sharing their Manawa at such a young age. I just did have some concerns, and I think I expressed some of it in the full council meeting where this measure was first introduced. My initial inclination is to, just because I'm not a supporter of all-out bans, is to oppose it, but I am willing to, at this time vote with reservations just to have the conversation continue. I am curious to see what we can do as a council rather than having a ban, see what we can do working with revamping the recycling end of it, because I don't know if us banning them in city properties is going to stop the production of it. I think plastics will still be produced. And I think, hearing the the sentiments from the administration, but also trying to find that balanced approach. There are certain, I want to know how this will impact our local merchants, the vendors that are currently having their products sold here. That's important to me. As well as to see, is there a way that we can find some kind of compromise in the contracts if we find a way to work that out with them, as well as give our vendors time to adjust if necessary. But I think there's room in there to figure out what can we do as a council to work with the recycling side. That seems to be a more balanced approach. I know the testifier that came and said that there's options that they have in putting those plastics that can be recycled and forming another type of plastic or other types of materials. So instead of penalizing our local vendors, that's something that I'm hoping we can discuss as we move forward. Thank you, thank you. So voting with reservations at this time.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair.
No, appreciate that insight. And totally open to input if it continues and comes back to committee on modifications or language changes that could be made as well. But open it up to other thoughts or discussion. Okay. And so just for the purposes of oral discussion or oral amendments rather, yeah, Councilmember Toba.
I just, I'll be voting no at this time, sorry. I support the intent of the bill, which is to reduce the waste entering our streams and landfill. Like if we ban plastic bottles at city facilities, city authorized concessions, city sponsored or city permitted events, or city programs, this just increases the cost to vendors and customers. It doesn't necessarily translate to less bottles going to the recycling facilities. So if we go to our vending machine right now downstairs, plastic bottle costs $2 versus aluminum bottle that costs $5. I will say this, I'm blue in my face, I support recycling. I would prefer we support measures to help us recycle more sustainably without increasing costs to our businesses and especially punish local residents. We've seen what that has done with the cost of plate lunches, simple soda. So I would love to hear really the sentiments of our constituents and the people in our community. So I'll be voting no at this time. Thank you, Chair.
Understood. And so just to discuss the oral amendment, would be adding an exemption number 5 to the exemption section specifying that these restrictions shall not apply to the vendors vendors participating in the licensed blind vendor program. And so the motion would be to recommend that Bill 59 be as amended and as orally discussed, be reported out for passage on second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. And I know there was objections from Councilmember Toba, reservations from Councilmember Okimoto. Yes, Vice Chair Kiaina.
Thank you. I also will be voting no, apart from some of the what Councilmember Toba has outlined. I also think strategically we just also need to address access to safe drinking water. And Honolulu Hale, for example, is very old. I mean, that's why we have access to a water, safe water fountain that we're able to use our reusable cups, but that's not the case. I wouldn't trust drinking out of water fountain in this Honolulu Hale. So for me, separate from the impacts that Councilmember Toba has outlined, I also would just like to see a greater dialogue on how we can make sure that the public has access to safe drinking water. And as someone who drinks a lot of water, I could see that I would be in a difficult situation if I didn't have access. So anyway, for now, I'm going to be voting no. Thanks.
Okay, appreciate that. And appreciate 100% the sentiment. I would just, for personal reasons, I'll just note that I fully trust the Department of Facilities Maintenance and also trust the department or the Board of Water Supply and do appreciate the water available at our public drinking fountains and the work that they do to keep it clean. But totally understand the different perspectives that exist in the community, but do appreciate that we have some of the cleanest drinking water and best drinking water in the world. And so mahalo to all of our city workers that allow that to happen. So first, I'm going to recommend that bill, and I'm going to do roll call on this because I know there are some objections. I'm going to recommend that Bill 59, 2024 be amended to CD1 as discussed, and we'll go down. Councilmember Dos Santos, 10.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, this again was the amending it to the CD1. So adding the exemption for the blind vendor program. Was that any position on that, Vice Chair?
Aye for the exemption.
For the adding the exemption. Okay, Councilmember Okimoto.
For the exemption,
Adding,
aye.
okay, Councilmember Toba.
Same here.
Okay, so seeing that, the bill has been amended, and we'll go ahead and recommend that Bill 59, 2024. Oh, yeah, I didn't call myself. I'm an aye. Apologies for that, for the amendment. The chair is then going to recommend that Bill 59, 2024 CD1 be reported out for passage on second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Councilmember Dos Santos, Tam.
Aye.
Vice Chair Kia Aina.
No.
Okay, Councilmember Okimoto.
Reservations.
Okay, Councilmember Toba.
No.
Okay, and then Councilmember Chair Weyer is an aye. And so I believe that's with 2 ayes and then also the reservation, 3 ayes means that it passes for now. So hearing none, so ordered. Mahalo for the discussion. Mahalo again to our youth. So this will be passed out of committee, come up for second reading at full council if agendized by the chair, and then we may have it back in committee, of course, if it makes it out of second reading. And so look forward to your future participation. If you can't make it down, you can always submit testimony online. You don't even have to be here if you want. But mahalo again. Could we get another round of applause for our students? Okay, committee, we're going to go to agenda item number 2. Agenda item number 2 for action, Bill 51, 2024, CD1 amends the revised ordinances of Honolulu to safely and sustainably increase the supply of housing by allowing for the adaptive reuse of existing commercial buildings. Members, we have a hand-carried CD2 OCS 2024-1017/11/19/2024, 12:43 p.m. submitted by myself. The CD2 makes the following amendments. It is posted online. I'll go ahead and read them since this is a hand-carried. Adds a new section 2 of the bill, which amends Article 2 of ROH Chapter 16A by adding a new definition of International Building Code. Subsequent sections of the bill are renumbered. In renumbered Section 3 of the bill, amends proposed new ROH Section 16A-4.4E5 to read, in the event of a power outage for dwelling units exclusively reliant on mechanical ventilation, the fresh air supply system must maintain the delivery of outdoor air to the dwelling units pursuant to the ventilation requirements of the International Building Code. Dwelling units meeting the openable window ventilation requirements of Chapter 16A or the natural ventilation requirements of the International Building Code are not required to be equipped with or utilize a backup emergency power and fresh air supply system. Amends proposed new ROH Section 16A-4.4E7 to read, any purchase or rental agreement for a dwelling unit reliant on mechanical ventilation must include notice that the unit is mechanically ventilated with non-openable windows. And adds a proposed new ROH Section 16A-4.4E8 to read, the retrofitting or repurposing shall be exempt from park dedication or additional off-street parking requirements provided that the number of the building's existing off-street parking spaces satisfies at least 50% of the city's off-street parking requirement. And the building's floor area, height, and setbacks do not change as a result of adaptive reuse, except when providing outdoor amenities for the residential use or activating the street frontage of ground floor commercial area. Deletes the proposed new ROH Section 16A-4.4F in light of the addition of the new ROH section 16A-4.4E8. And then, of course, makes additional technical and non-substantive amendments. I believe we still have Deputy Director Gallagher present on behalf of the department. We'll welcome you up if you have any position or anything you'd like to share regarding the CD or the bill as a whole. Appreciate all your work on this item as well.
So, yeah, Brian Gallagher, Deputy Director, DPP. Actually, we wanted to thank the council's help on this as well, and the working group that we've been, they have all the participation and the comments they provided. We appreciate the last amendments that were submitted today. It's what we're going through here with the bill is far better than what it could be, where it's just strict following the International Building Code for these units. These are definitely improvements to this adaptive reuse of converting commercial properties to potentially multifamily residential. Some areas of concern that, I mean, it's not exactly what DPP would like. We would like openable windows to allow ventilation in case there is no mechanical ventilation or AC system. And then the revisions made in some of the items we just discussed in the event of a power outage, we would prefer that it's a mechanical ventilation outage, just in case, because a power outage is one aspect of mechanical ventilation, but if it's, say the power is still working, but the actual AC unit or something like that goes down due to mechanical failure, that is one of our concerns, to provide a backup ventilation system or fan system. But other than that, overall, I think we're pretty close. We got a pretty good direction on this. This is something that will, it's going to be an evolution in the process as we see these developments come in and DPP reviews them. So there may be some future revisions, but we're hopeful that this can provide some positive solutions for affordable housing in Honolulu. So.
Okay. Well, for that, any questions for the director? I did just have a couple real quick ones, or Deputy Director Mahal, apologies. Okay, so one of the last kind of policy-oriented substantive things you mentioned was preferring that it talks about a mechanical power outage and instead of a regular power outage. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, the intricacy in that is, say the power goes out and the ventilation system goes down. They're talking about having a backup system to provide ventilation. But if the power is still on and it's purely just a mechanical system or a mechanical failure, like an issue that happened with the Century Center was the water line that comes into the building to actually provide water for the AC chiller systems in order to cool air, that broke. So that would be part of a mechanical system that failed and not just a power system that failed. So we're trying to encompass the entire system in order to provide ventilation. But, yeah.
Mahalo, I appreciate that insight. I'm just trying to make sure I understand, because I know we have the hand-carried. Did you have a chance to review the hand-carried version as well?
Yeah, I did. That is the one that was emailed out today, this morning? Yeah. So that's where we see the change in power outage versus mechanical ventilation outage. But
so you do prefer that, the mechanical ventilation outage?
Correct.
Okay, perfect. No, appreciate that. Appreciate that. Okay, any other questions? Councilmember Dos Santos, Tam.
Thank you, Director, and thank you for working on this issue. It's taken a long time to get to this point, and we're coming up upon the deadline to get this out before the legislature's bill takes effect. To the point about the water outage at Century Square, are there requirements for backup water supply in this case for Century Square?
No, there are not.
So, and for the buildings that DPP already approved covering this, so 1132 Bishop Street and some of the others, are there similar impositions as you're kind of recommending as backups? Does 1132, were they required to have this type of backup system that we're talking about?
Yeah, I'm not aware of those existing situations. And actually, some of the other ones, I'm not sure how they previously were approved with unopenable windows. I think that's something we have to really question through our, when we do our inspections and how it made it through. So yeah, it's just trying to maybe clean up issues from the past and lessons learned moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Because that's kind of what I'm getting at, is the reason why this is our third attempt here, because it was not, there's never been a clear pathway. So I appreciate the attempt, and hopefully we get something out that does provide a clear pathway. But yeah. I'm always concerned that we're just going to constantly worry about the what ifs, what ifs, what ifs. And meanwhile, we have a huge need and buildings that have already been approved with this that don't have the what if, what if, what ifs.
Understood. That's fair. Yeah, there's no way to cover every failure for everything all the time. So that's a fair point.
Mahalo. Any other questions? Seeing none, we can, Mahalo Deputy Director will go ahead and go to testimony. But we have Mr. Mick here. And anyone else in the chamber wishing to testify that's unregistered can make your way to the front as well. Seeing none, we'll go ahead and end with you for in-person and then go to online. So Mr. Mick, whenever you're ready, proceed.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Committee Chair Weyer and committee members. I am Brian Mick here on behalf of the State Disability and Communication Access Board and its Executive Director, Kirby Shaw. DCAB recognizes there is an acute affordable housing shortage, and programs and policies which can quickly get housing units online are a vital component to addressing this issue. Our concern is that any multifamily housing units which are produced should be accessible and usable by people with disabilities, both people who currently have one and those who might acquire one after they've signed the lease or taken out a mortgage. We certainly want to avoid the situation of people having to move simply because they've acquired a disability. The conversion of older commercial buildings into residential may inadvertently result in the production of inaccessible buildings. Therefore, in our written testimony, DCAB has proposed an amendment which would require all retrofitted or repurposed projects to comply with the Fair Housing Act accessibility design standards. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Mahalo. Any questions for the testifier? I did have one because we did a little research in looking into the Fair Housing Act, and that's why I was just curious, because when you're asking for it to comply with, our understanding was that there's certain exemptions under Fair Housing Act for adaptive reuse type repurposing projects. And so are you saying that the normal, or the, not normal, but the regular standard should be applied to adaptive reuse, or was it saying we should just follow the fair housing standards?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and you may have been looking at some of the other ones, but basically the Fair Housing Act design guidelines only apply for projects which were received first occupancy after March 13th, 1991. So that's why we'll see a bunch of buildings like in older neighborhoods that are completely exempt from the Fair Housing Act and are not accessible. But interestingly enough, even so, if you're going in the other direction, if you were taking a residential building and converting it into commercial, you would have to comply with the ADA in that case, as you'd be switching from one design regulation into another. But when you go in the other direction, if it's an older building, even though it's being used as a residence now for the first time in, say, 2024 or 2025, it's completely exempt from all of the fair housing design requirements. So yeah, we were asking that since usually in the design phase you can comply with the design requirements, that it be a requirement.
Mahalo, appreciate that clarification, insight. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing that, mahalo for your time and your work. We'll go ahead and go to online testimony. Anyone wishing to testify can go ahead and use the raise hand feature. I believe we have Malia Hill registered, and then Evan Wee. And then anyone else can use the raise hand feature as well. Ms. Hill, please proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. Hi, I am Malia Hill. I am the Director of Policy for the Grassroots Institute of Hawaii. And we would like to voice our strong support for Bill 51. As the committee is very aware, adaptive reuse has great potential in expanding the housing stock in Honolulu and creating more affordable housing. We do have one sort of minor comment on the proposed amendments. I did just catching up with the hand-carried one. I noticed that one of our other concerns about the wording of Section 7 on the ambiguity of effects has been addressed. So thank you for that. The other concern regards the, I want to say Section 8 as to parking requirements, and specifically the requirement that the number of the building's existing off-street parking spaces satisfies at least 50% of the off-street parking requirement. Being slightly cynical, if you interpret that phrase, that provision strictly, you could interpret it as an exemption to board general rule that exempts parking mandates in certain areas, thereby increasing the restriction and the cost of adaptive reuse. So we suggest eliminating that section, just Section A or paragraph A there, in order to ensure that you are not adding to the cost of an adaptive reuse project by unintentionally creating a greater parking requirement than would otherwise be required under existing law.
Mahalo for the testimony. And any questions from the testifier? We were kind of fleshing out potential language for that concern, because my only thought was that if we eliminate it, then folks that are otherwise subject to parking requirements wouldn't be afforded a lesser standard. And so I'm just curious if there's any thought on modification or language that could be put in to adjust that. I was thinking maybe orally amending number 8 to read something along the lines of to the extent that, other exemptions do not apply, comma.
I said, I'm not necessarily good at legal language on the fly, but I think I agree, insofar as a greater, exemption does not already exist for this. Yes. Insofar there is no exemption, for this location, the number, but yes, thereby making sure that you're never getting more than you would for that particular district.
Okay, appreciate that insight. Seeing no other questions, mahalo for your testimony, and we'll go to Mr. Wee, if you want to go ahead and proceed when you're ready.
Aloha Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Evan Oy on behalf of NIAP Hawaii. We stand in strong support of Bill 51, and we just wanted to thank the committee and the working group for the amendments, especially to Section E5, which is to address the, first air supply shall be maintained in delivery of outdoor air pursuant to the IBC. This type of amendment really makes us consistent with the IBC while balancing and ensuring that there's outward air flowing into the units for these adaptive reuse projects in the event of a power outage. So we just wanted to express our strong support for this measure, and hopefully that it continues to move to help address the city's housing shortage at this time. So we appreciate the work and will be available for any questions.
Mahalo. Any questions for the testifier? Okay, thank you again for your testimony. Appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to testify that's unregistered may go ahead and use the raise hand feature on the screen, and seeing none, we'll go ahead and close testimony and go into discussion. I'll throw it out first, Councilmember Dos Santos. Tam, I don't know if you have an opinion about this dialogue we had, either with Mr. Mick or particularly with the Grassroots Institute, because we were trying to flesh out a little bit of language. And so welcome your input, or if you think there's no need.
Thank you. I'll note that the existing language, or the proposed language in the CD2, that is subsection 8A, comes directly from Act 37. And so I'm okay with the existing language as is. Now, Grassroots does bring up an interesting point that Act 37 also provides that a county may exempt a project from all off-street parking requirements. And so we could also just take that language directly from Act 37 and say at the end of 8A, 50% of the city's off-street parking requirement, comma, provided further that the city may fully exempt a project from all off-street parking requirements, semicolon, and then it goes into section B, something like that. But, you know, this is such a, there are really only going to be a handful of these types of projects moving forward. And so I think that for now, the existing language would be okay. We can revisit in the future. We could also just take the language from Act 37. But I do think it's important that we get something out that complies substantially with Act 37 before the end of the year.
I appreciate that. Any other discussion on any item or related to this bill? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and agree with that sentiment, understanding that I don't think any of the requested amendments are legally substantive or affect, you know, other laws that apply to the particular issue of adaptive reuse. So I am going to recommend that the bill pass out as is, and of course, if there's anything that we think needs to be you know, remedied, I wouldn't be offended if anyone does an FD draft for consideration. So with that, the chair is going to recommend that Bill 51, 2024, CD1 be amended to the hand-carried CD2 identified as OCS 2024-1017. Were there any objections or reservations or discussion on making that amendment to adopt the hand-carried? Seeing none, the bill has been amended to the CD2, and chair is going to recommend that Bill 51, 2024, CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Mahalo again to all the testifiers and, of course, Deputy Director. That brings us to agenda item number 4. This is Resolution 24261 relating to the appointment of Kehalani Pu'u to serve on the Board of Water Supply of the City and County of Honolulu for a term to expire on June 30th, 2029. I believe we do have Ms. Pu'u in the audience. Appreciate you coming down today and also your willingness to step up and serve in addition to all the service you're doing for the community. I just would ask if you wanted to maybe share a little bit with the committee about what you intend and hope to do at the Board of Water Supply.
Yes, aloha, Committee Chair Weyer, Vice Chair Kia'aina, and members of the council. So first, I am very honored and privileged to be recommended to serve on the Board of Water Supply as Board of Directors. My intent is to serve our community. I consider this kuleana, and when kuleana is given, it's something that I take on and I want to help carry out. I think my experience being here as a former deputy in the city, a consumer, a Native Hawaiian, and a community member will serve me well as I support the board and our chief engineer, Ernie Lau. That's it.
Mahalo. Appreciate that and appreciate your willingness to serve given, you know, the other obligations and responsibilities that you have and just all the expertise that you bring to the city. Would want to throw it out for the committee members. Councilmember Okimoto, if you had some questions.
Hi, aloha, good afternoon. Just a quick question. I know you might have touched on it, but with your experience and your area of expertise, how does that translate into being on the Board of Water Supply?
So I'll be very frank. I'm not a hydrologist, so I don't have the scientific or technical expertise, but I think that I can bring, again, perspectives as a Native Hawaiian who understands the value, right? It is part of our culture. Vai means wealthy and rich in Hawaiian because our kupuna understood the value of vai. But that, and then as a consumer and a community member, I think that I can bring those kinds of perspectives to the board. Also, I say my city experience because having been on this side of our structure, I guess, or of the city, I do understand, some of the inner workings of how things, the inner workings of the city, the challenges, the good stuff, but I think that that can help me to bring balanced perspective when we are looking at policy, regulations, water rates, although that's already been determined for the next few years. But those are, I guess, some of the experiences I hope to bring. I'm analytical, I'm a critical thinker, I'll ask questions. So I think that those skills will be helpful in this role as well.
Thank you, Ms. Pu'u. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the committee? Seeing none, thank you again for your time. We'll open it up to testimony. Anyone online can throw up their raised hand. Having no registered testifiers online, we'll go ahead and come to in person. I believe we have Board of Water Supply present to provide testimony. And anyone else wanting to testify in person that's unregistered can also approach the microphone. Mahalo.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. Erwin Kawata, Deputy Manager at Board of Water Supply. The Board of Water Supply supports Council Resolution 24-261 relating to the appointment of Kehaulani Pu'u to serve as a member of the Board of Water Supply's Board of Directors. Certainly, Ms. Pu'u's extensive knowledge of Hawaiian culture is in alignment with our vision and mission at the board. And when you add to that her government experience, project management experience, we feel that she will certainly complement and certainly enhance the capabilities of the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the testifier? See none. Mahalo again. And see no other testifiers, we'll go ahead and close testimony and open it up for discussion before I make my recommendation. Does the committee have any additional discussion on this item? Seeing none, the chair is going to recommend that resolution 24-261 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, and reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Okay. And then that'll bring us to agenda item number 5, resolution 24-274, urging the governor and the city administration to take action on the housing crisis and homelessness prior to the 2028 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, California. I know we have Deputy Director assigned to this one. I also see Director Krucky, so maybe Community Services was assigned to this. As Director makes his way up, I would welcome if the introducer wanted to provide any background. Otherwise, I'll just turn over to Director. Yeah, mahalo for being here, Director Krucky. If you wanted to provide any insight or the administration's position.
Thank you, Committee Chair, Vice Chair, Council members. Anton Krucky, Director, Department of Community Service, which also has the homeless coordinator in our department. So in regards to this resolution, the mayor traveled with Mayor Bass back to Washington, D.C. a few months past, and in those meetings, they were both urging for more vouchers and other activities that would support the homeless activities. After that, subsequent to that, she led a series of meetings convening mayors from across the country, which I represented the mayor in those meetings. Most of the activity that she urged, she did negotiate some better terms with HUD that she was doing, so they were focused on housing. She has a Inside Safe program in Los Angeles that it is one of her cornerstone programs that she uses. That program basically rents hotel rooms and motel rooms, and then they offer those to fix people that are houseless. That's been the main thrust that she's done in the past few years. There is some context to this in the Paris Olympics, where you could have seen at the end her holding the flag for Los Angeles, getting ready for the turnover, that Paris did bus people out of the city prior to the Olympics, and that did happen. Fortunately, the operative word there was bus in terms of us, but in other ones, there have been some major movements. Rio de Janeiro's, more than 70,000 people were moved prior to the Olympics. So, we'll see where this program goes. I think that there is, people that are getting $150 for a room today for the Inside Safe program during the Olympics may be able to get higher rates, and so there may or may not be as much options there. For Mayor Bass, there is another election in between now and the Olympics. So those were some of the contextual situations and research that I did in this. I think as a resolution, it's it's a difficult thing to do more than a resolution because of interstate commerce laws that allow people to travel in between states. I think the move to Hawaii is a bigger one than just outside of Los Angeles. That being said, we estimate that anywhere from 30 to 50 people come in from out of state that become homeless here in Honolulu every month. We do have programs that do take care of them, but at the same time, we have programs that will take people and take them back to the mainland. Our programs, though, aren't just shipping people. There has to be a receiver at the other end that's arranged, and that's what we do. And I think this year we've had over 100 people that we have helped go back to the mainland to their situations there. So those were just some pieces around that. I just wanted to point out the laws on interstate commerce that do exist. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions, Councilmember Say?
Thank you very much, Director Crockett. It was basically a resolution trying to preempt something from happening. And I don't want this county to be criticized that we are not trying to address homeless as the population increases. So during COVID, I've heard stories about some of our flight stewardess and stewards as the individual disembarks. Oh, where are you gonna go? Right? They go straight to the DHS office or one of the state offices to get their welfare, et cetera. But my point today is that if we don't talk about it, we're not going to do anything. And let's be very honest, this is 2024. In 3 years, you'll see what the impact will be as far as Los Angeles. I may disagree with the mayor of Los Angeles that you're going to shelter them in hotel rooms, which we don't have the resources for. And I believe the mayor may be incorrect as far as where the source of funding is going to come from. We were very fortunate to have a lot of federal funds during COVID, and that helped us out with the rent utility program. So in closing, it was just brought up for discussion, but more, are we trying to be preemptive as far as the county of Oahu? If not, it's fine with me. But in 4 years from now, you'll figure it out as the population of the homeless increase based on where these individuals came from. Thank you.
Mahalo for that, Councilmember Say. Any other?
To that, I'm sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead, Director.
To council members' comments, I would recall it was a little over a year ago that Alaska made tremors about their willingness to have homeless come here, and the mayor's not shy about making a phone call to his colleagues about that subject.
Thank you, Director. Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair.
And
Aloha, Director Crucky. So along the same thoughts, we put this into play, let's say hypothetically, and you said that our mayor has contacted the mayor in California, but what happens if it's not abided and they do send homeless here, regardless of what we do, and we see our point in time count go up? What kinds of things can we do here in the city or the council to address that proactively? Are there any kinds of things that we can put into place if this isn't adhered to or respected? What kinds of things, is the administration thinking of to put into place?
Thank you, council member, for those comments. I think that whether the homeless are coming from out of state or what we're dealing with, the administration really has embarked on a very aggressive building of beds. And I think that, I've been quoted as beds of many flavors. And so whether they're coming in from outside our county or here, we're doing a lot of segmentation of our homeless populations, and our objective is not housing. Some of our objectives is medical treatment. All of that, I'm going to activate, I think, from the time of the point in time count to as we speak now, over 1,000 bed touches that we have where people can come to a bed, they move on to the next one. It's a difficult thing. Volume is problematic. When the music stops, are there enough beds? And there aren't. So a large influx would be problematic. We would have to deal with it. It's not against the law for interstate commerce, but we would do the best we can. but we have made a major push with the relationship with the state, and I know that this resolution mentions the governor. The relationship between the state and the city has never been stronger in terms of addressing homelessness. For the reason why we can activate so many beds is the city has the resources to provide the structures and the beds, and the city and the state is then supporting the funds to support those beds, the wraparound services, the things that we do. So we have done a major ramp up in the last year. But again, when the music stops, there's not enough beds. But the beds are the solutions, and you want successful bedding, not just housing, but you want successful bedding. And to do that, you have to be knowledgeable about your population, where they can go that they would have the best chance of moving along in their journey. We're also teeing up a command center concept where we will be able to look at the numbers, the situations, the locations, so we'd have the best handle on that. And that command center be very open for all of you to tour, ask questions, put information up. And we expect that in the first half of next year, we'll have that up and running, probably in the new location that the Department of Community Services will be in.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if that answers the question that I had in my mind, though. I mean, you have these things in place, but this reso is to urge the governor and the city administration of California or Los Angeles to not have them shipped here and to take action, so what kinds of actions or preemptive measures? And if not, then I'm not sure if I understood your answer, because if, let's say, it doesn't work, should the council take any reductive matters up front or executive directive policies up front, like relocation? What can we put into place beforehand if this is not adhered to?
Well, if the resolution passes, Councilmember, I'm sure we could work out some scenarios, but short of creating a large place to have people, beds are the solutions. I'm not exactly sure where you're heading. Are you heading so that if a large group came out here, we would know what we would do with that group, short of?
Your solution is just to have the beds available if they do come. Is that what I'm hearing?
Today, with as much resources the city is putting into this and the state's putting into it, for what we have in the situation, like I said, when the music stops, there aren't enough beds. However, that being said, we're activating, like I said, a large amount of bed touches just this year, when the total beds that are for shelters today is 1,728 as of the last point in time count. And we'll activate more than that in terms of bed touches just in the last year. So we're going to do everything we can to continually increase some type of bed space of different types that we'll do. To answer your question at this point in time, we're not in a planning stage for an influx like that. If this resolution would pass, I'm sure that we would be urged to do that.
Okay, thank you, Director. Maybe we don't want to let other people know that we have endless amounts of beds here. But thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I mean, just quickly to clarify, because this was helpful, but I got a little confused. I know we're adding beds. We don't currently have enough beds for every single homeless person, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and so even if even one single additional homeless person comes to Hawaii, like we're still under, and we need to add beds to meet the needs of the community.
The ultimate flow of beds is the issue. So, we can, if we have like 1,500 bed touches, that's really great in terms of taking someone that is on the street and getting them into the system, getting them treatment, moving them along. But it's the next step that, if there's not a bed at the next step, there's not a bed at the next step.
Yeah.
That's continually the challenge. And that's not our challenge. That's a challenge across the country. And I would say when I look at the numbers, we're doing better in that challenge than other places. But yes, there aren't enough beds.
No, I really appreciate that clarification. Thank you, Councilmember Toba.
Thank you, Chair. Do we know exactly, you're saying that the point and count, do we know how many, because you said between 30 and 50 out-of-state people come in monthly. So if we do the 30, that's about 360 a year. So do we know where these people coming from? Because, we can always do what the kids did. We go to their town and let them know, like, we appreciate you guys, but, we get challenges on our own, and we're trying to figure out how we're going to house people here that's born and raised here. So do we know specifically? Because I just went to the new facility.
So when we encounter people and we do outreach, we ask those questions. we're not finding that, that folks are coming from any one place. It might be a family of 5 from Ohio. Their intent may be to come here, it's warmer. Their intent may be that they understand services here are better. Their intent may have been that they had a friend that said that they were gonna let them stay at their house, and then it turns out it doesn't work out.
Right.
I mean, we have all those different situations. We've not found any consistent number that come from any state government. Most, you know, they've come on their own, or they've had assistance of some philanthropic organization that's assisted them in their tickets and such. There have been touches. I know there's stories, and so we investigate those. I know that John Mizuno, who's the state coordinator, he had some issues with New York at one time when he was a legislator, and he investigated that. So we do know on an individual basis, but there's been no mosaic that's told us that we should go and address this place because this is a source.
Yeah, I get it. I just wanted to know if we have numbers that show which and where they're from, because from people that I've talked to that not from our state that come in, you know, it's easy, according to them, to come in and get the help right away. Is it because we enabling, or they know that we have all these things that allow people to get services like right away? Because, you know, when we look, if you look at all the numbers, 75% of Native Hawaiians are homeless. You know, we really taking care of the needs of the people right now, and our resources are so spent that, you know, we're having a hard time like meet that needs because we're too busy taking care of everybody coming in that can get the help right away.
Sometimes we're the result of our own good work, whereas we're providing a lot of services, we're helping people along. I'm not sure though that that in itself, I mean, you know, people come and they have a list of where to get services. They were being briefed somewhere. At the same time, like I said, you get interstate commerce doesn't prevent that from happening. And I think sometimes our climate has something to do with it, you know, especially this time of year. And it's easier to live here on the street than it might be somewhere else. But that being said, I know that when I talked to Connie Mitchell at IHS, you know, we're trying to say, well, you know, you're from here, we're gonna provide you first, can you wait in line? You know, that's about, by law, the best we can do is to push that down. I would hate to be a state or a county that wasn't proud of the services they offered, you know, so that would hurt our population. And as a Hawaiian, I certainly look at those numbers and do that. I do think that the command center that I talked about, when that gets up and running, and we'll all be able to participate, and that'll be very open, that information will tell us a lot about what our options are, how fast our intakes and outflows are in and out of shelters, and then into permanent housing, right?
Thank you, and thank you to Councilmember Say for bringing up this issue and this discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Also welcome Chair Waters to the chamber as well. Was there any other discussion from the committee before I make my recommendation to pass out the resolution? Councilmember Say.
Director Crockett, the concern I have was what happened 2 weeks ago. The concern I have is an incident that happened 2 or 3 weeks ago with the eviction of 8 different individuals at the Central YMCA. Once those individuals are asked to leave because the rent that they got did not subsidize the overall cost, my point is that these individuals become homeless. Would that be a priority of the administration? And the other concern too is that you folks have done a fantastic job on the rental utility relief fund that we have for all these families that you have provided funding for their rental subsidy during COVID. That particular federal monies are now drying up. Do we have the resources to replace that? If not, landlords will probably ask these individuals to be evicted based on the premise that I'll get a better, higher rent from another individual rather than, let's say, the $1,200 or $800. So what I'm trying to get at, are we preparing ourselves for these type of programs that were part of the 4 years of COVID in anticipation, now on top of this with the Olympics, to see where we are? Don't get me wrong, you guys have done a fantastic job, the city, in providing the beds. And the wraparound services was with the state. Now the key will be for those who are presently renters, as far as what may happen if they don't receive the continuation of that rent subsidy.
I think your sensitivity to that is spot on. I don't see a pot of money that is anything like the rent and utility relief money that came from the feds. And as we move out of this COVID, that's one of our greatest challenges, is how do we start to run the city, without those big influx of money coming in. We have, 68 to 70% of the population is estimated that they operate on paycheck to paycheck. And so it's a precarious situation. And for people like the eviction notice, vouchers and such are very structured. And, when we do the Section 8 vouchers, it takes us 3 years to go through the wait list. So I talked to somebody, well, you're on the wait list, but it's another 8 months before you get investigated. So we've tried to find vouchers that can be immediately applied. But other than that, you get pretty limited. And that's where the shelters come in. Go to the shelter. While you're there, we'll assess, what our options are. But sometimes the options are very limited.
No, but thank you very much, because you folks have done a tremendous job in trying to support our local residents in finding shelter. Thank you.
Mahalo for that. We'll go ahead and go to testimony. Anyone online wishing to testify can throw their hand up with the raise hand feature. Seeing none, we'll also invite anyone in person wishing to testify to come forward. Seeing none, we'll thank you again, Director, for your insight and participation today. We'll go ahead and close testimony, and seeing no further discussion or comments from the committee, we'll go ahead and make my recommendation. Chair is going to recommend that Resolution 24-274 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Mahalo, everyone. It's 4:05. There will be no further business. This meeting is adjourned.